Hello, and welcome to presentation number 2. The title of my presentation is it better to be asexual or sexual? Just a simple question. Now, for my observation question, I ask, is it a one-size-fits-all for asexual or sexual reproduction? And what makes one better than the other in certain situations? So let's answer those. Now, for starters, we're going to talk about what differentiates asexual versus sexual reproduction. Well, in asexual reproduction, you only need one parent. So you don't need a mom and a dad. You just need one thing. Whereas sexual reproduction, you need two parents, preferably male and a female, to produce an offspring. Now, in asexual, you might be wondering, well, why does it need one parent? Well, it reproduces via cell division, where the cells, let's say this is a cell, it'll pinch off and create new cells from itself. And those cells will be very similar to the originating cell. Whereas sexual reproduction happens via meiosis, where the gametes are formed, being the sperm cells and the eggs from the male and the female. And whenever you have sexual reproduction, you create new ones. Whereas in asexual, you don't need any gametes needed. You don't need any. And with sexual reproduction, it takes several months for the baby to produce. Whereas in asexual, it doesn't take quite so long. It can happen very fast. So, now what are some pros and cons of asexual? It sounds all great, you just need one and it's very fast. Well, as the pro says, it can spread very fast in a contained area. So it can produce a lot of offspring in a short amount of time, and it's right next to each other because it has to split up from the original cell, so it's not going to go very far. But that also limits it to a certain area. And it's useful because it only needs one cell. You don't need a mom and a dad. But some of the cons are it can't evolve because it's coming from one cell. It just needs that one cell. It doesn't leave much room for evolution, whereas you can get the genes from both a mom and a dad, where in a two parent sexual reproduction. This one, you won't get that same evolution. It'll be a one size fits all. And with that comes the risk of disease. One disease can wipe out the entire population because if the head cell, the one that started off from the top, all of its branching cells won't be able to fight off the same disease that killed it, and it can kill the population in a general area. And same thing with environmental changes. Whereas in a forest fire, it's not going to be able to escape that, so it's just going to catch up in flames and die. And a con of it is also that it's generally a smaller form of life, such as bacteria and fungi. And next, we're going to talk about the pros and cons of sexual reproduction. So the pros are it can evolve, whereas the other ones, it's from one cell, it doesn't have any of the other traits. Well, this one, it's a mom and a dad cell coming together, a mom and a dad coming together, and they both have their experiences of what helped them survive and what will keep the species evolving to help future generations survive. The species can spread over a larger area. That being said, it's not limited to, like, let's say this small forest. It could, whereas the asexual is limited to, let's say, forest A, whereas this one they can migrate from forest A to forest B to forest C and so on and so forth, such as birds. Birds migrate. And generally, it's higher life forms, such as me and you. We're humans. We are sexual reproducing organisms. But some of the cons are that it requires a male and a female, as opposed to the other one just requiring one. In this one, it'll take energy to find. So, whereas in nature, bacteria can just reproduce, a deer has to go out, find its mate, fight against others that are trying to mate with that one. And then you have to get into the process of reproducing, which takes energy, sore hips, and everything. And it's just not very well suited for isolated areas for the fact of inbreeding, because if you took freshman, sophomore high school biology, you will recall the blue people as a result of incest and inbreeding. It just doesn't work with the genes. Now, to the conclusion that I've come to, Asexual and sexual organisms, they're both valuable in their own assets. Each have its own distinct sets of pros, each has its distinct sets of cons. And they're each distinct in their evolution capacity, how fast they can spread, where they can spread, how far they can reach. They're individual in their own aspects and useful in their own ways. One is not simply better than the other, they are just situational. And the sources that I used were the source material given. I used the YouTube material given. I also went to the YouTube video for meiosis to make sure I got the gametes right and everything. And I also went and read up on the sexual versus asexual stuff with definitions and examples.